Play More is officially back as we've joined a brand new league and of course are drafting a brand new team. This is going to be a return to a standard format with some incredibly powerful Pokemon allowed at a higher point value. Tyler will tell you a little bit more about that in a second. More importantly, this league is going to feature 16 coaches, including us, 15 that I'm pretty sure we have not faced before on this channel. So it'll be very interesting to see how we stack up. 8 of those coaches will make the playoffs. It will be an 8-week season with week 1 starting a week from today. Mark your calendars, get excited. I can't wait. But before we can get too excited about week 1, we got to know more about the team. And how are we going to draft that team, Tyler?
Well, like you said, 16 coaches in this league. We're picking 5th in this draft, and it would be nice to say that we get to pick 5th in every round of this draft, but it's a snake draft, which means we get to pick 5th overall in the first round. Then we go to the back of the line or near the back of the line. Then we jump back up for that 5th pick in the 3rd round. It'll go back and forth until we spend all 120 of our points. There's some complication to it, but to simplify it, we'll have somewhere between 9 or 11 Pokemon on our team. It just depends on if Ben wants to spend bigger on some stronger Pokemon or maybe spend a little less and focus more on the quantity of Pokemon on our team rather than the overall quality. We'll have 3 Terra Captains or up to 3 Terra Captains, which we'll talk about as we go on. But John, you mentioned some really strong Pokemon in this draft. I'm hearing from the Beneral himself that it's time for the first overall pick, and he's saying something about wanting to take one of the strongest, if not the strongest Pokemon available in this format.
Hello, Playmore fans. It is the Beneral, your coach for Season 4 once again, and I am here to present our draft picks for the Mudkip Division. We are 5th overall in the first round, and I have some amazing news. This might not be an Ubers League, but we just picked up Zamazenta Crowned.
I'm going to be honest, I have no idea how this Pokemon was allowed to be drafted or how it fell to the 5th overall pick, but I am incredibly excited to have Blossom, the Zamazenta Crowned, on the team. The nickname, very important. It's the Beneral's dog. It's going to make this Pokemon even more powerful, just like every time it gets onto the field. And what is it? The Dauntless Shield gets +1 defense, which is very important because this Pokemon with its 140 defense and Stab Body Press are going to absolutely destroy opposing teams. This is a Pokemon that really doesn't have too many drawbacks. I mean, the stats are absurd. 128 speed, it's outspeeding most things. It is taking hits from most things. Doesn't have too many weaknesses. It can boost its defense, which boosts its offense with Body Press. I mean, this is a Pokemon that, like, there's so much going on with it that there's almost not a lot to say. It's going to be brought every week. Every person we face is going to have to prep a ton to take on this monster. And I really could not be more excited to start a draft with a Pokemon like this, Tyler.
You know, if you're watching this and you're like me and most of your competitive Pokemon knowledge comes from One Wolfie VGC, then you know just how good this thing is because it was so good he made an entire video about just how strong this Pokemon is and the redemption tour that it's been on, not just with everything that it can do with Iron Defense and Body Press, but John, do you want to guess how much this dog weighs when it's got its shield out?
1,000 pounds?
1,700 pounds! Like, it makes Clifford look small. This thing is huge, and it's going to heavy slam everything. I am so excited for this Pokemon because it's not just good offensively, but the whole point of this thing is how good it is defensively, and when you've got a Pokemon that you can turn that Body Press around and use the defense as its offense, it's also super fast. There's not really a weakness to point to with this. It just feels like a home run first overall pick, well, 5th overall pick, first pick for us for Playmore to have in this new league.
It's probably worth bringing up a few of the downsides. There's not many, but this Pokemon is not going to be able to run an item, so it kind of functions like a Mega Pokemon, which is pretty cool with ZA on the horizon, but it also does have some pretty common weaknesses with a weakness to fighting and ground. So while it's not going to be super easy for this Pokemon to get worn down, it may not last forever. It doesn't have easy recovery, can't even hold leftovers. And there's probably going to be a lot of Choice Scarf Pokemon the opponents are going to bring throughout the weeks to try to outspeed and hopefully take this thing out as it gets chipped down. So it's definitely going to need some support. And speaking of that, I think it's time to go to the 2nd pick and see how Ben is going to pair this Pokemon.
For our 2nd overall pick, we want some great support to pair with Zamazenta Crown. So we're going with Clefable.
While this pick isn't as exciting as the first overall pick, it is just as important, as Clefable is the perfect complement to Zamazenta Crown form. This Pokemon, I think, is going to be incredibly useful in this format especially, and so many other coaches are going to be kicking themselves for not drafting this, as the Unaware ability is going to be insane. There are so many terrifying threats that once set up can just obliterate most other teams, but with Unaware, we don't really have to be worried about that. But we also have Magic Guard, which is a phenomenal ability to have on really any Pokemon. There's a lot of status that's going to be flying around. Clefable, of course, with the Fairy typing, that pairs super well with the Steel type. It's going to be able to take those fighting hits, which is fantastic. And just in general, this is a Pokemon with so many moves. The coverage is insane. Its ability to send Wish support over to Zamazenta is fantastic. There's even Healing Wish if you want to get a little crazy and sacrifice the silly little Clefable guys. We can bash things with the scary dog. That's always fun. But just in general, I think Clefable is going to be able to do everything we need a bulky Fairy type to do for us, with the only real worry possibly being the lackluster stats. But even that, Tyler, is something we've seen throughout the generations doesn't hold Clefable back.
Oh, and the big strength is what you laid out there, the move pool, everything that it can learn. Like, if you need to waste 2 or 3 minutes, just go scroll through every TM that Clefable can learn. It's ridiculous. And that's not even accounting for the fact that you can roll Metronome on this bad boy and use quite literally anything. I expect to see that at least once this season, Ben. But to go even a little bit behind the scenes from our end, from what we've heard from Ben coming into this draft, is that Clefable's a Pokemon that he wanted from the jump. It's a Pokemon that he's really comfortable with using because it's been around for so long. He's got a lot of experience with using it. And John, I've talked about this throughout the past seasons. One of my favorite things is seeing Pokemon that Ben is clearly confident and he knows what the purpose of that Pokemon is going to be from battle to battle. So when I hear him talk about Clefable the way that he does, that he knows how to use this Pokemon, it's one that he looks at as one of the best Fairy Pokemon, if not the best Fairy available in draft. I love seeing us pick something up that from day one, Ben is going to be confident in rolling out there. And with all that said, hopefully we can say all of the same things, except for maybe the typing and the specific Pokemon itself, but everything about the confidence about the next pick in our draft.
What do you mean it just went? We were just about to pick. I'm going to be on camera and he's... I just had some very unfortunate news that for round 3, our expected frog that we finally wanted on the team in Greninja was taken right before us by a guy that already had a dark type. I'm cool. It's totally fine. We're just going to have to pick up some more legendary power instead in Darkrai.
Of all of the picks in this draft, this may be the one I am most excited about, Tyler. I know the big dog with the shield is going to be leading the team, and ideally leading the team in kills, but I think Darkrai can shock the draft league scene and have its best season yet. I've heard a lot of people say that this is a mid pick. It's not a Pokemon you really want to rely on. It's let a lot of other coaches down. But I was actually called up into the front office to talk about this pick, and we were looking at either Greninja or Darkrai. And I'm going to upset a few people. I actually thought that Darkrai would make more sense on this team. Now, I was not able to be proven wrong because Greninja was picked right before us. So you know what? I had my cake and I get to eat it too. You know, if Greninja was there, I think it probably would have been picked, but instead Darkrai is gonna shock the world. Blackbeard is gonna go on a tear. Now, the reason I really want Darkrai on this team, or wanted Darkrai, love having Darkrai, is when you have Shield Dog and Darkrai on the same team, it gets incredibly difficult to prepare, especially with Clefable in between those two, with the Unaware ability and just in general being an incredible support Pokemon. It's really freaking difficult to prepare for 2 Pokemon with over 120 speed, incredible legendary stats, and just a really incredibly scary 135 special attack from the Darkrai. They're both gonna hit like nukes. You do not need to throw on like a Choice Specs or a Choice Band on any of these Pokemon for them to already be incredibly scary. They're going to outspeed so many things naturally. You're forcing your opponents to put way too many resources into stopping both of these Pokemon. And because we have 2 terrifying threats, it's also going to put less pressure on each of them to really carry the team week to week. I really think this could be the season where Darkrai shows off. It would have been cool to have the powerful frog, but it was drafted before. I probably would have been overruled. Don't get too angry with me.
You know, John, I like my Pokemon, and I've said this in many seasons past, where you can just hover over which move you're going to pick the first turn, and each turn with that Pokemon, just click A, and that's all you have to do the entirety of the time it's on the field. Now, there are a couple of wrinkles to it with Darkrai. If you want a nasty plot, be my guest. If you want to try to put something to sleep, be my guest. But if you want to, you can just slap a choice item on it and hit Dark Pulse or Sludge Bomb or something else that does a ton of damage and be a happy camper. I'm going to be a happy camper all year long. I love a pick like this. I love my Pokemon like this. I've gone on and on. Thankfully, you covered the important stuff to where I can just say, I like strong Pokemon, do pick damage, I happy. I am very content with this pick, but after a pick like this that you know is going to be a Pokemon that is going to rack up kills, potentially be a sweeper at times, feels like a perfect opportunity to then come around and pick maybe a bit more of a support Pokemon, which I'm hearing from Coach may be our move with this next pick.
For round 4, I wanted one of the best rapid spinners on the board, so we're taking Blastoise.
Blastoise officially cements a bit of a pattern of scary legendary, bulky Gen 1 Pokemon, and I'm actually really excited about this Pokemon. The main reason it was drafted is, of course, the rapid spin support. Get rid of hazards. It's nice to be able to flip turn and get into the scarier threats. Water type is a fantastic typing in general. It's a really good defensive typing. With the starter stats, just really good across the board. You really don't have a weakness that's too glaring on Blastoise. Possibly speed, but we already got all of the speediest Mons out there, so I'm not too worried about that. But Tyler, I think the thing I'm most excited about with Blastoise is you can't really prep for Shell Smash Blastoise when you have Zamazenta with the big shield and you got Darkrai being all scary and spooky. But then all of a sudden, Shell Smash Blastoise could ruin your day. I think this is going to be a set that's brought maximum twice this season, and I think one time this season, it just wins the game late. I really, really do like it. It's not the most exciting pick in the world, as it might be straightforward most weeks of rapid spin, flip turn, two other somewhat coverage moves, but for what it can do, I think it's going to be incredibly imperative.
So for those familiar with real sports drafts, there are usually two types of picks. You are picking the best possible player, or if you want to use Pokemon, available, or you're taking a pick according to what your team needs, more of a fit pick. This is a pick for fit. This is what the team needs at this moment in time. Nobody's going to try to argue that Blastoise is the best Pokemon available right now in the 4th round, but it fits everything that the team needs. And I love having Shell Smash. It's just something, it's just an extra thing that people are going to have in the back of their minds, because it's not super likely that it's going to be brought, but because historically that's what Blastoise was known for, when you're prepping for Blastoise, you're inevitably going to have to think about a situation where Ben does choose to bring Shell Smash. It's always going to be there for opponents. The option is also always going to be there for Ben. I also love this having Flip Turn in particular, because there is a lot of value in slower Pokemon having Flip Turn, because a lot of them that have it tend to be a little bit faster, at least faster than Blastoise. But when you're slower and you have that Flip Turn, more than likely you're going to be able to bring something else in without it taking damage. And if you can use that to get a speedier Mon, like a Darkrai, like a Big Shield Dog out there, it has even more value in that situation. I think, John, for this spot, it might seem like a reach to someone watching, but for what the team needs right now, I think this is a great pick.
I'm glad you brought up the slow flip turn ability, because our ability to get rid of hazards and then slowly flip turn into one of our big threats is going to be incredible. And if that's the only thing Blastoise does this season, that would be fantastic. But the next pick is in. I had some thoughts about this one as well, so I'm excited for it, but let's have the coach announce it.
Why did John just text me that he wanted me to pick up the squirrel from SpongeBob, Sandy Cheeks?
Sandy Cheeks is on the team. I absolutely love this pick, Tyler. There are a few different Pokemon on the board that the coach was looking at, and as I really dove into a lot of them, this Pokemon just looked better and better and better. I've always been a sucker for a really good electric type on a draft league team, but when you can get one that has a secondary stab like Sandy Shocks does have, it is just fantastic. It is so difficult to switch into the combination of electric and ground. There is going to be the pesky grass types that do get sent in, but usually when you're tossing in a ground type to soak up that electric hit, you are not trying to get hit with an earth power from that 121 special attack. But because this is one of those fancy dancy paradox Pokemon, it does have a photosynthesis. You can have the booster energy on this thing, making that special attack even stronger. Maybe you make the speed a little bit faster. I really love all of those elements of this Pokemon. But the best part is Spikes was a big reason this Pokemon was picked. And really wanted to get something on the team that could have that Spike support. If we're able to get up hazards, it's going to be a lot easier late game for Darkrai or the Shield Dog to absolutely destroy, or maybe a Shell Smash Blastoise. I mean, we have so much speed immediately on the team. The more we can whittle down Pokemon, it's going to be fantastic. And I really love the fact that we're able to get another Pokemon with a pivot move with Volt Switch. I just really love what Sandy Shocks is going to be able to bring to the team. And I'm excited to see what he can do with it this season, Tyler.
Yeah, it's remarkably similar to Blastoise in how it can function, despite obviously very different typings and stats and everything else being completely different. But like you talked about, it can get hazards out. It can switch out. It's different from Blastoise in that we talked about it. You know, it's a bit slower with the flip turn. Sandy Shocks can use it a bit more offensively with Volt Switch, that higher special attack. And like you mentioned, with being able to use the booster energy, now you've got two Pokemon between that and Zamazenta, where the first time they're getting thrown out, whenever that is in the battle, the opponent is going to have to play around that first time that Pokemon comes into battle the entire time. Because when they come in that first time in particular and they get that stat boost, they are going to be terrors to try and deal with. Because I know Sandy Cheeks doesn't get talked about too much as being, you know, one of maybe the stronger Pokemon in Gen 9. But when you've got a base 121 special attack and you're getting an automatic boost to that when you get thrown out, and you've got a really good typing combination specifically for offense in electric and ground and still some good coverage to go with it, this is a Pokemon that in this pick I love for the value that it can give you. In a versatile role, I think it's going to be one that Ben can consistently rely on, whether it be for hazards or whether it actually be for trying to deal some more damage specially.
That's all well and good, Tyler, but I'm getting news that the new Bubby is about to get picked. Over to you, Coach.
It's time for Playmore to take the new Bubby for this season. None other than my strawberry jams, but my Glock don't. Bullet Seed Breloom.
Welcome to the swamp, Bubby the Breloom. This is a very exciting pick. Bubby is going to be a lot more offensive this season, and hopefully we can see him absolutely rack up kill after kill. Breloom is actually a Pokemon that almost made me quit competitive Pokemon in the beginning. I went against it in 4th gen. It was back when that thing would just spore, set up a substitute with the poison heal, and it would just ruin my day. It was not a lot of fun to go against, but that's not even why Breloom is so good right now. This is a Pokemon with a 130 attack, Technician, and it's gonna Mach Punch you over and over again. Absolutely love having a powerful priority Pokemon at this stage of the draft. I mean, this is a Pokemon that is really, really, really incredible. There's a lot of different things you can actually do with it, but most of the time it's just gonna do the old Mach Punchy thing or the Bullet Seed thing, which is usually enough. It's a Pokemon that's gonna be hard for opponents to prep for just with all of the threats we already have. And I actually kind of like having a secondary fighting type on the team. As the Shield Dog, it's mostly body press. You know, this is a little bit different flavor of punching you directly in the face. Now, funnily enough, the fighting type is not why we drafted this Pokemon. The grass type was a bigger reason. We've definitely had issues in the past of not having enough ground resists. We have a decent amount of specially offensive Pokemon at this point. So being able to, you know, 2 birds, 1 stone, get a grass type, resist the ground, and also get a little bit more physical offense is fantastic. I think this is going to be an absolute terror, Tyler.
Yeah, John, you did all the important stuff there, so I'm going to do something less important, except to me it means everything, and that's with this being the new Bubby. I'd like to examine how it looks compared to the old Bubby, our Bubby. I'm noticing a couple of key similarities. They're both green. The eyes kind of look the same. I'm not noticing on our Bubby any toxic spores, at least that I know of, but that's what I'm seeing between the two Bubbies. What about you?
I'm not seeing any of that. I have no idea what you're talking about. This Bubby I'm holding is a brand new Bubby. I'm hearing it hasn't been released yet. Possibly soon, possibly to celebrate something very exciting. Doesn't look like Breloom. Very cool, sparkles. It looks fantastic, Tyler. I'm sure it will be.
Does it look like this Snorlax back here?
I cannot see what you're talking about, but what I can see is a link on screen, play-more.store. You should go there. I'm sure this little critter will be there decently soon. There's some great deals, some great things to pick up. You want to support the team. It's going to be a pretty exciting season, but Tyler, what are you talking about?
Well, you said there's a new Bubby. I've got this Snorlax back here. I didn't know if that's what is that the new Bubby?
Tyler,
I can't see what you've got up there. You said it didn't look like my Bubby.
We'll talk later. I'll let you know. It's not. We'll talk later, soon. Keep your eyes peeled, and more information soon. Speaking of more information, let's get to the next pick of the draft.
It's not a good day unless I'm fishing, so it's time to get big fish in Terra Gyarados.
After doubling up on fighting types, the Beneral doubles down on water types, and I am incredibly excited about this pick, Tyler. A lot of Gen 1 Pokemon, but of all of the Gen 1 Pokemon, I feel like Gyarados may be the one that has aged the most gracefully. It is just an incredible Pokemon, generation after generation. There's so many different things it can do. Now, we got Breloom to help with a possible ground weakness that was forming. I wasn't the most confident that Breloom would be the answer to our ground weakness. Gyarados is absolutely going to help with that. The fact that we have two water types now, Gyarados is functioning more often than not as the flying type on a build. But the cool thing with Gyarados, you can bring Intimidate and be a bulkier set, or you can bring Moxie and absolutely sweep teams. I really love with Breloom having Mach Punch on there, just really powerful priority to hopefully clean up at the end of the game. But with Gyarados, maybe after we have Darkrai and the dog over there break down an opponent's team, this thing can go for Dragon Dance and clean up, or it could just be Choice Scarf with Moxie. There's a lot of things Gyarados can do, but I think the coolest thing is on this team, it does not have to have a huge role. There's not a ton of a responsibility heaped onto its shoulders, which allows it to be a lot more flexible and a lot more terrifying for coaches to deal with.
And another thing that makes it even more terrifying is it's our first Terra captain. That was pretty good. Clip that one, Landon. That was good. I want that one on my reel. Anyways, yeah, Terra captain on this team. 3 types: flying, ground, dragon. Flying makes it even more dangerous because for some reason it lost bounce and had no physical flying coverage at all. So now we've got Terra Blast, and it can actually serve as a flying type, make that electric weakness just a regular weakness and not a 4 times weakness. You can make it ground and get rid of that entirely. Stab Earthquake, super good. The other option, I heard from the team, there was some back and forth between Dragon or Steel. Ultimately went with Dragon. So, John, I guess technically we've got a Fairy, Steel, Dragon core kind of on this team. Not really at all. But more of a defensive option there with Gyarados, which between the two abilities, this is something that we talked about, John, when we heard about the rumblings that this could be a pick for the squad. It can be used in multiple ways, and it's really drastic of which way you can swing it. You can go Moxie, Dragon Dance, super attacking. You can go Intimidate, be really bulky, and the Terra types really can go with either one of those as well. For this late in the draft, a great pick, and I think realistically, a really great first Terra captain for this team.
I don't know if I'm hearing this right, Tyler, but I think another Gen 1 Pokemon has been picked? Yeah, let's go to the coach. I don't understand.
We're taking a brief intermission from the draft to let you know about 2 links down in the description. First, you'll find my draft analysis, just a more in-depth breakdown of the entire team, why I drafted them, how I plan on using them. I'm really excited about this team, and they'll just let you know a little bit more about my insights on the team as a whole. Just like a phoenix, Marco rises from the ashes of the previous season and returns as Moltres.
I didn't hear wrong. We have another Gen 1 Pokemon on the team, and this time it's Moltres, a Pokemon I absolutely hated when it was first picked, but then I realized I am old. I haven't done Draft League in a while, and we did get a cool item called Heavy Duty Boots, which changes everything, and it's actually really, really exciting to see Moltres on this team and see how it performs. I'm used to Moltres switching into Stealth Rocks, losing half of its HP, and then once you switch out and bring it back in, it's basically done. But now this thing actually can be a bulky Pokemon. It can be a really nice pivot. It's another Pokemon with U-turn, which is fantastic. And once you get rid of that, you know, really scary Stealth Rock's weakness, the 4x Rock weakness is still there. I mean, the stats all around are pretty darn fantastic. Tyler, I really do like this Pokemon. We do now have our Fire, Water, Grass core. And I actually, the more I look at this team and kind of see it come together, I would not be shocked if this was brought a little bit more often than Gyarados as the bulkier flying type, or just really, you know, the flying type in general on the team.
Just like Gyarados, it gives you that ground immunity, but it's another one that can switch in and out constantly, and because it has the boots, it can do so more freely, like you talked about. One thing the team said they wanted here was a fairy resistance. Moltres gives exactly that. It's not the fastest Pokemon, it's not the slowest Pokemon, but because it's really not used that often, you don't realize just how strong it is with that 125 special attack. And it's also got a respectable 100 attack, so it can go for physical moves. It can be a bit of a mixed attacker. I think we're going to see this used in multiple ways. Ben described it as just an all-around Pokemon, and I think that's the perfect way to sum it up. It's going to be a Pokemon week to week where I'm with you. I think it'll be a pretty common bring, but I don't think it's one where opponents are going to be able to bank on one set in particular for this Moltres. I think Ben is going to have multiple options with every battle in terms of how he's going to use it.
There is absolutely no way this information is correct, but I am hearing
Don't say it.
Another Gen 1 pick?
No.
Ben?
I promise this is the last Kanto Pokemon. Okay, last one. We're going to take Muck.
The madman actually did it. He picked Muck, another Gen 1 Pokemon on the team. And while this is a Pokemon that has not aged as gracefully as something like Clefable or Gyarados or Moltres with its fancy new boots, it's a pretty reliable Pokemon. You know, this is a Pokemon I've used in lower tiers. A decent amount of success. I really do like that.
You didn't have to add the extra lowers, okay?
It's still a Pokemon that can be very successful
Nuke
here.
The respect it deserves.
The nickname's gonna take it the other way, but that's fine. In Draft League, the beauty of this format is a Pokemon that maybe in a more, you know, in VGC or regular singles, you wouldn't see it as often. It can really pick its spots and be really perfect. You want to have a poison type on the team. You do not want toxic spikes to ruin your life. You want to be able to set up your own toxic spikes. It has really, really good special defense to pair with that really, really good 105 HP. The attack 105, it's respectable. It does actually have priority, which people don't really expect. I mean, in a pinch, it can do some pretty good damage. It can set up Curse, which is kind of crazy, and catch someone off guard. It's not going to be a Pokemon we see often, but it does have a lot of things that we needed. So when we need to have a bulkier poison type, when we need to soak up toxic spikes, when we want to poison other Pokemon, knock off different Pokemon as they switch in, Muck's there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the berry consumption into Belch, how crazy that's going to go, maybe the occasional Memento. Like, this thing is just here to annoy. Although I'm glad that Ben was wise enough to pick a poison type to suck up the toxic spikes, because I would have, after we picked Breloom, be like, oh, okay, we've got a Pokemon that can poison the other Pokemon. We don't need to worry about toxic spikes now. So I'm glad that we've got a head coach that recognizes, you know, important things like that. Muck is a Pokemon that it's not the pretty pick, both literally and metaphorically. I'm with you. I don't think it's going to come on the team super often. I think it'll show up, you know, 3-4 times. But I think when it's there is going to be a specific plan for it. And if I'm the opponent and I see that Ben has brought Muck, I'm terrified and I'm already annoyed with what I'm going to go through whenever it's on the field.
Now, I do need to make a correction for your sake in the comments, Tyler. Breloom is not poisoning opponents. It is poisoning itself and then somehow regenerating more. It's
can
a
do both.
sicko, Tyler. It's a sicko.
It knows toxic. It can do both.
No, it has toxic heal the ability. It's a sicko.
But it also has the move. It has both of them. It's like the sickest sicko.
I don't know if that's true, but I will take your word for it. That is... I did not realize how sick of a Pokemon it truly was. I'm so used to it sporing. Maybe I'm fine with Muck on the team. Maybe the sicko needed a sicko friend. And
The sicko needed a nuke. Let's be honest.
yeah, no, okay. Let's move on to the final pick of this team, as is a lot more wholesome. And I need to get that thing off the screen. Let's bring in the family.
For Playmore's final pick of Season 4 in the Mudkip Division, and our second Terra Captain, we're picking you. That's right. Playmore fans, you're being drafted as Mousehold.
I said bring in the family. The Beneral said bring in the Playmore fans. You guys got Bubby to root for, the entire team to root for, of course, but now you got a Pokemon that's representing all of you guys. And this is a Pokemon that Ben really wants to make work. Now, those words should put a little bit of fear into you guys. I mean, wanting to make it work is not the same as Shield Doggo gonna get a lot of kills and do well. But I am pretty excited about this Pokemon, Tyler. Nobody is going to prep for Mousehold. Nobody, unless they are insane and they know that Ben is gonna try to make it work. You can't put too much prep into it. Now, you can't just throw Rocky Helmet on something and then let Mousehold kind of like end itself with the Population Bomb move.
No one's gonna do that. No one's gonna do it.
Even without that, I love the fact that we have another way to get rid of hazards with Tidy Up. And not only can we get rid of hazards with Tidy Up, but it can raise the attack and speed immediately. That's fantastic. Another Pokemon with U-Turn is super, super good. I really love having a lot of those initiative moves to hopefully bring us into the really terrifying threats, or just bring in something like Gyarados, hopefully set up and sweep towards the end of the game. I think this is a Pokemon that's going to get more use than expected. And while it may not be something that is getting a bunch of kills, I just really, really love the pressure it can put on other teams. And really that, 111 speed stat is pretty interesting. It's a nice in-between of a lot of things that we have. And I think it's going to allow us to outspeed a lot more threats than maybe expected.
It's just a pretty solid Terra Captain. I think that mainly Gyarados is going to be the Terra Captain of choice, but what you talked about earlier with times where Moltres may just be the preferred option over Gyarados when looking at those two is going to lead to some more opportunities for Mousehold than maybe we expect. The normal Terra makes perfect sense. Population Bomb can do even more damage. Ben can just go to work. I know that's purely what he wants to do with this Pokemon. It also has a Ghost Terra, mostly just to block Rapid Spin from the opponents. And then Terra Fighting hits Steel types, Rock types. That Population Bomb really won't do too much damage to. Like you said, it even gets some good coverage with U-Turn. It can be annoying. It can taunt. It can Encore. It can Thunder Wave. It can do a lot of different things. When you're looking at a last pick and just having another option at Terra Captain, when your other one, you're not 100% sure how often you're going to want to bring it when there's a little overlap with the flying type with Moltres as well. I think having an option that could occasionally sweep the other team if we've got the right look on the other side is not the worst case scenario.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you have your brand new Playmore squad. I am so excited for this team, Tyler. Hypothetically, this team is absolutely killing it. In my mind, we're having a fantastic season, regardless of what happens when we get to game day. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys are excited. Stay tuned for week 1. Be ready for a special season. I'm ready to make this our best one yet.
Noog.